Welcome to a Legendarium special about life on board an Anglo-Saxon keelboat. In this episode, we will learn about the hard work and harder lives of the men who regularly crossed the North Sea from Germany and Denmark to England. A hodgepodge of Germanic nations dwelled along the coasts of northern Germany and Denmark during the era of the Roman Empire. Angles and Saxons are the most famous, but they also included the Franks, Jutes, and Frisians. During times of Roman strength, they sought peace with the vast empire to the south. Indeed, Roman coins which found their way north became prized talismans, regarded as tokens that bore the image of a semi-divine being, namely the emperor. However, during the 3rd century, Roman strength flagged, and the Germanic keelboats began to cross the whale roads of the North Sea. During the 3rd century, Saxon keelboats raided the eastern coast of Roman Britannia and forced the Romans to build a network of fortresses that became known as the Saxon Shore. Ironically, many of the soldiers who manned these fortresses came not from Rome, but were recruited from Germanic tribes who fought other Germanic tribes for Roman gold and land. By the 5th century, Anglo-Saxons found their homeland flooding, the coastal plains they called home either swallowed by the sea or turned into swamps. Their war chiefs already knew Britannia and the Romans who ruled her, so they traveled there in their keelboats. This time they brought their families, intending to settle a new home. From the 5th through the 11th centuries, Saxon keelboats continued to be used along the British coast against Vikings, the Irish, and the Welsh. Anglo-Saxons built these double-ended keelboats with overlapping planks of wood braced within the hull of the ship, a technique known as clinker-built. In this, they resembled the Viking longboats that sailed more than 4 centuries later. However, Saxon keelboats differed from their Viking descendants in several ways. Saxon keelboats tended to be shorter than longships, little more than 50 feet long. Additionally, they had flat-bottomed keel planks rather than a pointed T-keel. Keelboats lacked a mast and sails, a major difference from the square-shaped sail seen on Viking longboats. Finally, they had no deck, so people and goods simply sat in the hull. Saxon oarsmen did not have a pleasant job. When they built a new ship, the wood needed time to swell, which meant oarsmen spent much time bailing out water that seeped through the wood. Even after a ship seasoned, rain and waves could still fill a keelboat with water and send them down to the sea monster's realm. Most of the time, Saxon oarsmen used wooden buckets to put the water back where it belonged, and for those hard-to-reach areas they used giant wooden spoons big enough to fit both fists into. This hard work, often done amid howling winds and frigid temperatures, left hands red and raw. When not bailing water, an oarsman on board pumped his oars alongside 20 or 30 of his mates, working in shifts to keep the keelboat always moving. A headman sat at the back of the ship so that everyone could see him. This job went to the biggest and strongest man who could power 2 smaller oars by himself. Most of the other men on the left and right sides of the keelboat used both hands on a single long oar and followed the lead of the headman in the back. Viking sagas often lamented sitting on hard benches with icicles hanging from their oar, the ship, and sometimes their clothes and person. This hard, repetitive work ensured sore hands, backs, and shoulders on the best of days. If they did not make landfall, the Saxon oarsmen slept in the ship with nothing but animal skins for cover from the wind and rain, and their hairy, foul-smelling mates for warmth. With their narrow beams and flat keels, it would have been easy for these ships to wreck in stormy seas. The food brought nourishment but not much comfort to the Saxon oarsmen. They feasted upon large haunches of salted meat, especially ham. Oarsmen sliced off a piece with the large knives that most Saxons carried in their belt. The main alternative would be smelly, bony fish, which the men ate raw, tearing off the fleshy bits with their teeth and then chewing it up, complete with the bones. Yet despite the many hardships the Saxon oarsmen endured, they regularly crossed the North Sea for raiding, trading, and finally the settlement of what would become England. That wraps things up for this episode of the Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.